Hey everyone, welcome to a great edition Mogul Live 2022. This is the first time we've actually done a Mogul Live where our guest is probably he's probably less than 5 minutes walk down the road. Keishawn's generally joined in the chat. Great to see you, Keishawn. I'm going to get you in really quickly. Really excited to have you here in the chat. Let's get you talking about your films again. For anyone that's just joined Mogul Live here today, first one of 2022, we're really excited to have Keishawn in the chat. Again, feature films he's done, Crossed, Boys Don't Cry. I actually did the last feature film of Tom Lister as well, so we could talk to Keishawn about that. And great to see Tom, Mike, Emily, David, Myris, John, Tim. Great to see you all guys coming in the chat. Really excited to have everyone here today for 2022. Let's see how we go connecting Keishawn into the chat here today. Again, Mogul Live, guys. Any questions you like? Keishawn, great to
Hey,
have you,
brother.
man.
Great to be on. Thank you for having me, man.
I was just telling everybody you're actually very, very close. So the connection should be good. So hopefully we don't have any problems.
Right.
Again, great turnout in the chat already. 278, 279. People are pouring in. Can we tell just people here a little bit about yourself, and also anyone who wants to talk about NFTs, Mogul, those things, bring those questions up as well, guys. We can talk films, NFTs, cryptocurrency. Keishawn, over to you.
Thanks for having me, brother. Well, a little bit about myself. Pretty much a film director, film producer, writer, advocate, activist, entrepreneur. Worked on everything from television shows to music videos, movies, commercials over the past, eight years. And my career has been ever for growing since. Met some pretty great people along the way. And I think all in all, I'm just excited to be able to share my journey with many and, bring some inspiration to those who actually seek being in the business and, want to know more about what it takes to, just even be a filmmaker. Definitely, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, anyone, guys, jump in, any questions. If it does buffer as well, Keishawn, just swap over from Wi-Fi to cell, if that helps as well.
Okay.
So if I'm breaking up as well, just let me know. I want to talk a little bit about the film with Tom Lister, though.
Yeah.
Was that correct? You directed his last ever feature film?
Yes, I did. I actually, well, it was an interesting project because I started out as an assistant director in the initial process, and then by probably like 2 days into the project, I was in the director's chair, and it was just a matter of, I wanted to help the current director, get ahead of schedule because we were on a very, very, very tight time crunch, and I just remember, me as an AD before I swapped over to being the director, Tom Lister walk into the freaking lobby of the motel and he's like, I'm not getting out the car until I have $5,000. I'm like, okay, well, I gotta go get the producer for that. And then, we got him in, and then him just being there, he's such a great soul. I mean, all in all, he definitely had, you know, a power and a presence that people just totally loved and just like being around. And it was just outside of just being an actor, because I don't know if many people are familiar, but he used to be in the WWE and he used to wrestle. So, a lot of people know him from that world as well. So, yeah, when we worked on that film, we did an amazing job. All in all, the team that was part of that, the crew that was part of that, we did an amazing job. And I just remember, we did this one scene where, Tiny was just like, so I got to make sure there's a little bit of aggression here. So I'm gonna have to grab it to make sure we get the emotional camera. I said, well, we don't really have a stunt coordinator for that. He goes, oh, it's okay. I'll be safe. I'm like, okay, sure. We do the scene. He actually gets him and shakes him. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is a real one. And it came out great. It came out great. And it was just an experience. It was such great vibes. Rest his soul. I know outside of Crossed, we was developing another show that, we really wanted to bring to life for his daughter and himself. And I wanted to put him in the spotlight of that. And out of spite of, all of that, the relationship was very strong. We didn't always see eye to eye. I'm gonna be honest. We didn't always see eye to eye because we had our differences, but definitely when it came to making creativity and making films and, working on shows, he definitely was a great soul to be around. Um, and I
I think,
definitely do miss the
well,
fact about that.
I'll jump in. I mean, I think you've done well when the fact that you came in so late as the director, um, to then be able to take over and kind of man the thing, because you said 2 days out you took over as director.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it was definitely a transition, going from, instantly you're in one mind state of just being an AD. So you're dealing with scheduling, background talent, and just making sure everything is happening, fulfilling to standards. And then you're shifting to being the creative and actually painting the picture of, you know, a theatrical piece. And, one thing I always, liked about myself is the fact that I'm able to adapt and I try to just bring that to wherever I go. So me just stepping into the director's chair, it wasn't a matter of like complaining. It was like, okay, cool, let's figure this out. Let's make it happen. Let's try to piece it together. And, when you find yourself doing that, and you're able to turn that switch off and on, you kind of find yourself learning and growing in whatever field it is that you're in.
right, right.
Um, and Cross was definitely a growing film for me because it was, for one, like one of my coming out films as a director, and it was like, let's see what you're made of. And I tell you one thing, being on set for 14, 15 hours a day and you're doing it for 7 days straight is definitely a process. So my ordeal is like, when we made the film, let's just have fun. All in all, when I try to talk to the cast and crew, I'm like, let's just have fun. Regardless of what happens, you got to have fun doing what you do, and we're all in this business for the same reason, which is to be creative and express our talent. So I always try to bring that unity factor to production and to set when any kind of circumstances come about.
Yep. Well, I've got some pre-played questions that were sent in earlier, so I'm going to give some rapid fire questions, and these are kind of basically, if you want to pass, just say pass. Well, so basically, first question: what is your next project?
My next project right now, currently, I'm in production for a television series, but we're on the pilot right now, working with the team. It's an urban drama series called Born Again, and it follows the story of four young men basically growing up, and they all have unique differences of backgrounds, and they all kind of find balance to one another just through their differences, which leads to the main character, which is our protagonist. He goes on this spiritual journey to really discovering himself, but that discovery leads to him finding his long lost mother.
I'll
And it's
jump.
very,
I was going to say quickly jump in as well with the Mogul fans. Is there an opportunity for any casting? Let's say the Mogul community. Is there any chance Mogul can get involved in this one?
there's definitely a chance. I'm right now, this is a project where I didn't write just to, make the typical do it the Hollywood standards way. I kind of wanted to make open doors for people to express their talent. So regardless if you're, your crew, your cast, I want to have people to have that chance to be able to express their talents and work part of a such big caliber production. And making sure that people grow along the way. So yeah, definitely there is room for casting. There is room for crewing. There is even room in a development side. So people out there who are writers and people who are out there that want to be part of the writers room or the producer staff, we're all for that. We're trying to break those barriers of where people say, you have to do a project a certain way. And for me, I never believed a project has to be done just one way. It's kind of like, you make it what it is, and it's basically collaboration. So I always try to bring that collaboration factor about. So yes, definitely there is room open.
Up on Instagram. If anyone's got any interest, hit you up on Instagram's the best way.
Definitely, definitely DM me. I'm very responsive. I don't really have that Hollywood cliche of a status where I ignore DMs. I'm all open for DMs. If people have questions about the project, they're interested about it, talk to me. I'm a human being.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Our next question came in. Okay, I got to ask this one. You got to condense it down to one thing, but from being, you're 24, 25?
20, just turned 25.
25. Okay. Three feature films as director.
Yes.
Okay. So out of those three feature films, what is your best advice for anyone in Hollywood right now? If you had to condense it down to kind of like one particular thing, what would you say to make it in the film industry?
Uh, Trust your gut, and there really is no right or wrong way to being a director when it comes to defining if you're ready to be a director. So when I say that, I mean, you know, I didn't know when was the right time to do a feature until I landed on a feature. So, you know, people think that you got to go to film school, you got to do all these things. Yes, you got to have some theoretical background, but more of it so is experience and relationships. So,
Right.
if I had to tell anyone, build that experience, build those relationships, never look at a production, even if it doesn't work in your favor, as a failure, look at it as a growing process where you just learned something that you can prevent for the next project and apply those principles of prevention so that a way you can steadily keep growing up in the process.
That's great. That's great advice. I mean, guys, anyone that's just joined us, Keishawn Blackstone is our guest. Like I said, 25 years old, 3 feature films as director, including the last ever film that Tom Lister did, which was called Cross. Uh, this is my next question came in. NFTs in Hollywood. What was your first reaction, and where do you think that's going?
The first thought when I first heard about NFTs in Hollywood was about time. It's about time that people are blocked, like they're knocking the walls down for, the typical way of funding films and the typical way of pushing films. I think NFTs is a great way because it's a form of art. So, a lot of people don't look at, production as, just a dollar sign. It's a form of art. So definitely I am all for the NFTs, and I love to see how it's kind of making its way through. I know there's a few celebrities, friends of mine, that kind of brought some NFTs, and some of my celebrity friends got their films funded through NFTs. And it's just a great avenue and another open door to people getting their projects made. So, power to the NFT community. I definitely support it. And, yeah, I'm, I'm excited to see where it goes from now moving forward.
Well, if anyone in the chat wants to have a chat about Keyshawn's next films, throw out any questions as well, or any ideas in the chat about what could perhaps be a good NFT that Keyshawn could do. Film poster, deleted scenes, perhaps even just some limited edition cover art that has something different. Put it in the chat, guys. Put it in as we're talking. Another question, quickly, rapid question coming in. If you could go back in time to your very first film you directed, what would you do different?
Um, Well, my first film wasn't a film. I would say that it was a television show. I met some really great people who actually became like family to me present day. I would have went back and I would have done a little bit more research, just about who I was working with. And, it was a growing experience. Let's just put it like that. It wasn't nothing dealing with the creative staff or me as a director. It was just a growing experience in terms of, you know, even on a production, things can happen, and sometimes you can't prevent those things from happening. But if you do your research ahead of time, meaning who you're working with, or who's doing what to make things happen on the business side of film, then it can prevent so many things. But like I said, I never looked at it as a failure. It was just a growing experience, and moving forward, fast forward to today, I'm a producer because of that. I'm in the director's chair because of that, and I'm able to manage multiple projects at once because of that experience I had. And there was a lot of different experiences that happened throughout, but everything kind of happened with a grain of salt, and just kind of took it and ran with it, kept moving forward. Um, so yeah, definitely my first project. It was a television show pilot, um, actually episodic. I remember we did 10 episodes, and it never aired, all because the business side failed. And that
So
was
you
just me.
guys shot 10 episodes, but it never saw the light of day.
No, never saw the light of day. And it was something where I was like very excited to push forward, see myself on a screen. But all in all, when it came to the business side, I was like, oh, this is not what it was. And, sometimes you're sold false hopes. So I told myself, Keyshawn, be transparent, be honest about everything you do moving forward. Take that as the lesson, because the people that I was working with wasn't transparent and honest. So um, you got to just take, like I said, everything with a grain of salt, learn from it, grow from it. Sometimes it hurts, and hurt is good sometimes because, it allows you to feel. And when you're not feeling, then, how you ever expect to grow? Because you don't know what it's like to be in those shoes.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, I think I saw it in the chat came up just before. I think it's Luningar. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Let me know if I don't. But he wrote, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I think that's also where you're kind of like you're learning as well. If
Yeah,
sometimes, actually, I think it was one of our previous guests, Kevin. He mentioned sometimes you've got to fail to win. Otherwise, you just can't learn. You can't go forward. So it's
Absolutely.
yeah. Um, Another question we had pre come in for you was, I mean, where do you see Hollywood, NFTs, crypto, basically every change that we're seeing right now? Where do you see Hollywood in the next 2 years?
Well, my first thought is you're either on the ship or you're off. You're either going to get on the boat or you're going to miss it. And now is a time where opportunity is endless. It's inevitable. Even everything from the streaming platform side to the financial side, there is no, like I said, one way to do a project. So if you either understand NFTs, it can progressively get you ahead when it comes to filmmaking. But if you don't understand it, you kind of just ignore it, then it's kind of like a door that you kind of just walking past, but that was secretly your token to funding your next show, your next film. Um, so I think in the next 2 years, it's everlastingly growing to be this thing that's going to be a norm. It's going to be a standard norm. Why? Because we're in a time right now where everything is digital. We're in a digital age. And if you're not embracing the digital age, then, you can't really expect, um, that growth factor. It's even from a technological standpoint. Technology, phones, computers, everything has grown rapidly over the years. And the way society treats it is you're either with it or you get left. And when you're left, you're finding yourself in this spot where, oh, I got to figure it out. I got to try to understand. So I think the more education about NFTs that goes out, the better it is for the filmmaking community. But definitely it's going to be something that's progressively a standard coming in the coming years.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing you said there is, it can either work for you or against you. As far as you're either on or off. The big thing I want to ask you, I mean, a lot of the people you work around, what's been their reaction to obviously these changes? Because I've found there's been some people that have kind of like, really set their heels in and be like, I'm not changing. I don't know what that is. I don't understand it. Get rid of it. But there's a lot of people I've noticed that have been like, hey, are you on the NFT train? Or we want to get involved in NFTs. Like, what is the process? But what's it been like with your circle that you've seen?
Well, I worked with a lot of veteran filmmakers in the past. I mean, people who's been in the business for like 40 plus years. And, these are people that they were accustomed to cash, and that was it. Get our check, work, get our check, work. So when I spoke to them briefly about, hey, what do you think about the crypto world and the NFT world coming into film? A lot of them is like, oh, I don't even know what that is, or, what am I getting into? Um, and like I said, it's an interesting time because it's like you're able to either learn or you can just pass it up, you know? So for me, I always try to educate the people around me, regardless of being a director or not, and as it turns into the things that I know. So NFTs is something I very much fluctuantly know. Um, and I just try to spread the word about, what's the benefits, what's the cons. Everything has its pros and cons, but I definitely see more benefits than anything because, it's something where it's a form of art. It's a form of next world payment, decentralized, controlled currency that's involved. So, there's a lot of things that are beneficial to it. But like I said, if people don't know, then they won't really engage because people don't go after things that they don't know. People go after things that they do know. So it's a matter of understanding. And I think we have to, our job as, creatives is to, educate one another. We can all learn something from each other. We're never the ones that know everything. So if we can spread the word more about NFTs and getting society ahead and on the train, then I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And also, I think the big thing is just understanding that there is pros and cons. But the big thing is if you educate yourself, then you can make an independent decision rather than just, I guess, going with what other people are doing. We've got about 5 minutes, Keishawn. Love the chat. You've had some really great points. This is the last of the quick running questions that I had. But if you want to mention anything too, or guys in the chat, if you want to bring any more questions to Keishawn, question here is from a director's point of view. What has been the best thing you've ever seen an actor do on set that helps your job?
Huh. There's been a lot. There's been a
Besides
lot, but
the
I,
mark.
I think the number one thing that I saw was I had an actor that seeing that my job was very intense for that day. My workload was very heavy for that day. And the actor was like, I know my lines. I know what I got to do. Um, Took himself outside of the box of, I'm an actor, and was like, hey, you know, is there anything I can do to just make this moment a lot more easier for us? Because I know this is going to be a very intense scene coming up. And, even at the time, I don't like putting my actors in situations to where, it takes them out of that creative headspace or out of character. So I'm just like, no, not really. On the other side of my head is like, Keyshawn, you should ask for that help that you just got offered. And it's like, no, like keep him in his creative space. But, just seeing that common kindness come out of people that's genuine, and it's not out of, I'm not being paid this enough money to do this, so I'm not going to volunteer. It's like seeing that kindness come out of people, really shows that at the end of the day, it's out of love, it's out of creative, it's out of the arts, it's out of um, just being a great human being, being a
And
great human being.
you know what? I think that's a really genuine thing as well, because you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of people say, hey, this is my pay grade. This is my sandbox. I'm staying in here. And if that person has more issues, it's probably because they're getting paid more money, whatever. But the fact is, it's a team effort, which is, again, everybody needs help at some point. So that's our last of our running questions. Keyshawn, is there anything you want to kind of do a shout out or talk about before we wrap it up?
I would say I like to leave it on this note. If you're out there and you're creating a project, whether it's a show, it's a movie, it's a commercial, whatever, short film, my advice I would give to any creative out there is, um, there's going to be moments where you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. Meaning, it's not always going to be 9 to 5 schedule of, I'm strictly just dedicated to film. You're going to find yourself going through these crossroads, and, you're going through roller coaster loops of, you know, different things and experiences that ultimately lead you to doing that project. Um, just from a standpoint of myself, you know, COVID has impacted everybody differently, so my standpoint when it come to COVID was, my career was on a hard reset. It was on a reset to where, you got to figure out the financial side for stability. You got to figure out the funding side for your projects. You got to figure out the, management side of your project, and then your creative side. And all in all of that, you're starting to see this workflow create of, how do I go about approaching my project moving forward? How do I get this project made that I ever so lastly committed so much time to? And some people lose spite, they lose hope because they don't know how to. But I will ultimately say this: never quit, never give up. Trust your gut. And even when people say it won't work, and it will work deep down inside, go for it, because at the end of the day, it's all creativity. And if you have to, I'm just putting it out there, if you have to work a job to make money to put into your project, then go do it. But no one's not going to give you a handout in today's society to just kickstart your project, because everybody has been impacted by COVID differently. So um, don't be afraid to be uncomfortable, because being uncomfortable leads to a new comfort, and you learn to embrace and adapt. And that's what sets you apart from everybody else as a creative. So all the filmmakers out there, whether you're crew, whether you're producers, writers, directors, go after your project. But remember that it's never easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But
Yeah.
ultimately understand that it will happen if you make it happen. That's my big thing. It will happen if you make it happen. I wanted a show so bad of my own that I wrote my own show. I created my own show, and I understood what it take to, create a show. But there was people in my ear saying, "Hey, it won't work. This is not the right time." There's a lot of doubt, but you got to throw all that across the table and just say, "That's what I know it's going to look like. That's how I know how to get it," and you go after it. Don't let no voice stop you. So, encouragement to all the filmmaking community: stay humble. Go hard. And if we cross paths, because a lot of people in this world that I've talked to just on mutual chats, I cross paths with them, and they're either working crew with me or we're working side by side. So if we cross paths, and let's turn up, let's collaborate, let's make the best moment possible for whatever project we're working on. But go forward and go hard. That's my big takeaway from this.
I think that's awesome. That's awesome. So, guys, Keishawn said it before too. Look, if you want to DM him on Instagram, I'm going to hold you that, Keishawn. You said you're going to reply back to them. If you DM,
Yes.
you're going to hit them up. We wish you all the best with the latest projects. It's been awesome to chat with you. We're going to get you back as well. And everyone, thanks very much for joining us. Mogul Live, first one of 2022. More to come up. Can't wait to see you guys again soon. Keishawn, we'll talk soon.
All right, brother. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, everyone.